Hello, I'm Anne Wood, the creative director of Ragdoll.
And I'm Andrew Davenport, the author and composer of In the Night Garden.
And we're here in response to the many questions we've been hearing and we've heard over the years to our work, which is making television programmes for very little children.
And In the Night Garden is our first collaboration since Teletubbies, and many of the same questions have cropped up about both shows, so this is an opportunity for us to expand on them a little bit.
And we thought it would be best to do that with special reference to In the Night Garden.
So we begin with a familiar scene, a bedtime scene, and a gentle lullaby is sung, and a nursery rhyme is said. And very importantly, we have the touch of a parent's hand. And all of these in combination communicate a reassuring way into the programme for the child. And it creates an affectionate and warm setting for the story that is about to follow.
Down. Light the little light.
And the rhyme takes us to a picture of Igglepiggle in his boat. And this already sets In the Night Garden in the realms of the imagination. Igglepiggle takes down his sail and lights the light and settles down to sleep in his boat. And there he is on the dark ocean, all alone, but he's safe and he's snug. And this image of sailing in a boat across a dark ocean is something that recurs in many cultures to stand for the idea of going to sleep. So it's very appropriate that this is how we start In the Night Garden. And then we are led by a bright star through a magical sequence where the stars themselves turn into flowers. And as we pass through the blossom, before we know it, we find ourselves in the night garden.
And there are all Igglepiggle's toy friends waiting to welcome him in the safe place that toys represent to all children.
In the night garden.
Now we find ourselves, unlike Igglepiggle, the wrong side of a thick hedge, and we have to get through it or over it. And we do that with another rhyme.
The Ninky Nonk.
And today the Ninky Nonk is going to take us into the garden. And it's one of a pair of extraordinary vehicles, toy vehicles, that the toys can travel in.
Catch the Ninky Nonk.
The Ninky Nonk is a funny kind of train. It's just the sort of train that any toy would love to travel in. You never know where you're going when you get on the Ninky Nonk. But what you do know is that you'll be in for a very bouncy ride.
And then the blossom fall, the equivalent of a page turn in a picture book. And we have another rhyme.
Looking up, looking down, here and there, and all about.
This rhyme contains a guessing game, one of the first guessing games in the programme.
Here's a house. Whose house is this? And are they in? Or are they out?
And children who watch the programme regularly will recognise this house. This is clearly the house of Pakka.
It's Pakka's house. And I think he might be in. Pakka.
And here he comes. Pakka's name itself is a little rhyme. And now he performs along to his own signature rhyme.
Hello, Pakka.
All of these rhymes have a purpose. Children love them and will quickly become familiar with them. Children embrace rhyming and language play at this age, from about the age of 2 onwards. And it's considered that language play takes a crucial role in wider language development. So it's natural that we would put rhyming at the centre of In the Night Garden.
What are you doing today? Are you getting your Ogpog ready?
So now we see Makka getting his Ogpog ready. Very importantly, he blows his trumpet, first of all. And he gets all the components ready that he's going to take with him into the garden. Gives everything a clean, of course. That's very important to Pakka. Now, all of the things that Pakka carries on his Ogpog have a meaning because they all have a function. They all do something. And this is something that will not be lost on children. They are very interested in this kind of detail. Because, if you like, each of the things that Pakka carries on his Ogpog contain a little story in their own right.
And it's this attention to detail that actually young children also share that marks out Andy's work throughout the design, the writing and the music.
It means that the story is being told on many different levels at once, that each picture that contains all this detail is giving the child information on lots of different levels at once.
And it's all contributing to the narrative at the same time. And now another equivalent page turn, the Tittifers. A moment to pause and absorb the narrative so far. So who's next?
Who's here?
And here we have our old friend Igglepiggle. And he's introduced in exactly the same way as all the characters.
Hello, Igglepiggle.
We ask who's here, and then he has his own little signature rhyme.
Yes, my name is Igglepiggle. Igglepiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Yes, my name is Igglepiggle. Igglepiggle, niggle, wiggle, woo. Hello, Igglepiggle. What are you doing today? Are you out for a walk in the garden? Can we go with you?
And all of these questions are designed to arouse the curiosity of the child and to involve them in the story right from the beginning. We can see that here Igglepiggle is going to be the main character in this story, and off he goes into the garden.
And then Andy's music picks up the narrative, confident that children will intuitively respond to the rhythm of the story reflected in the music and in the physicality of the scene.
Yes, this is an instance where I can use the music as well as the words and action to tell the story. This music is an extension of Igglepiggle's earlier theme that I hope describes his personality and his mood as he ventures out into the garden.
More Tittifers and another progression, a change of music.
Each of the Tittifers has their own song, and all the songs complement each other, and later on in the programme we'll see them all come together in one chorus.
What is generally not understood, I think, about how children's thinking skills grow is that by seeing playful TV of this kind, it helps them in their development of thinking.
Igglepiggle?
This scene develops an important principle when it comes to writing for young children. Igglepiggle has left his blanket behind, but he is going to be the last to notice that. And through a series of clues that build up across the scene, we know that the child will realise before he does what has gone wrong. And this allowing the child to stay a step ahead of the action, allowing the child to anticipate the outcome of the scene, is very important. It gives them a great deal of pleasure. There are many ways of doing this. One is, as in this case, by building up through clues. We can use also repetition.
Don't worry, Igglepiggle.
And here we see a very common response that Igglepiggle makes when he finds himself in a situation that's less than desirable. He falls flat on his back. We always say to him, "Don't worry, Igglepiggle."
And that's our response to what we've observed many times with parents and children who seem to be in an anxious environment. You know, let's not worry, we say.
That's right, because children do find the world a very worrying place. And one of the functions of little stories like this and programs like this, where the world is constant and reassuring, is to provide that playful place where a child can go to make sense of their own world and to alleviate their own anxiety. And here we have Igglepiggle demonstrating a strategy for finding things that you've lost. He's retracing his steps, and the capacity of the characters as role models is very important.
Don't worry, Igglepiggle.
And really here in this next scene we see demonstrated the principle of friendship. Now Igglepiggle has found himself in a difficult place. He's lost his blanket, but luckily he has a friend. And here comes Upsy Daisy, introduced in the same way as all the other characters, with a question, who's here?
Upsy Daisy. Hello, Upsy Daisy.
And her own signature rhyme.
Upsy Daisy, here I come. I'm the only Upsy one. I'm the only Daisy too. Ipsy, Upsy Daisy do.
Upsy Daisy! How? Upsy Daisy! Upsy Daisy!
Upsy Daisy and Igglepiggle.
Now, Upsy Daisy and Igglepiggle are shown very clearly here to be friends. And this demonstrates how the characters work and are designed to work as social role models. They show friendship for each other. Upsy Daisy really feels for Igglepiggle and shows him that she wants to help him and support him.
This feeling for the difficulties of others is something we would want all children to learn.
The effects of that friendship can be seen because Igglepiggle is already feeling better. Now this is all very compelling for children who are just learning and just acquiring social skills and understanding how to empathise with each other and realising that other people have feelings in the same way that they do.
And it's clear without words how Upsy Daisy feels. What seems not to be generally understood is how children can understand communication long before they can speak for themselves.
And so now in the story we hear a sound. And clearly Upsy Daisy and Igglepiggle don't know what this sound is. And again we give the child opportunity to guess what happens next through a series of clues that gradually build. The first clue was a very long way back when Pakka blew his trumpet when we first met him. And now we offer up a view of Pakka's cave area with the bridge that he always comes under when he goes into the garden. Then Derek Jacobi, the narrator, asks the question, what is that noise? And again that prompts the child to think about it and maybe to guess the answer. But finally we have the biggest clue of all, which is provided by the magical gazebo. And the magical gazebo is really in charge of all the stories in the garden and sometimes helps them along a bit with a little clue. And this is exactly what it's going to do now.
Look at that. A picture of Igglepiggle's blanket and a picture of Pakka blowing his trumpet.
And a very young child will be able to put these clues together and might be able to guess what has happened to Igglepiggle's blanket and be able to anticipate the next part of the story. But we still don't tell the child the answer. We're still giving them time to work it out for themselves.
And with frequent pauses while the characters nod helps to give the child this little bit of extra thinking time that they might need.
And at last here is the answer to what was that noise, and also to, if you like, the story itself, because we see that in fact here is Pakka and his way is blocked by none other than Igglepiggle's blanket.
And we relish this moment, deliberately leaving time on the resolution, because we know the children get a great deal of pleasure from the endings and the solutions.
And they also need that time, of course, to put together all the elements that make up the resolution of the story. Because even a simple story like this is quite a complicated thing for a child to get their head around, if you like. They need all the time to add together the fact that Igglepiggle has lost his blanket and that here is Igglepiggle's blanket, which Pakka, who we saw earlier, has helped him to find by blowing his trumpet.
And while this may seem simple, actually to shoot it was very, very complicated.
Yes, and this is an example of one of the times when we're using special effects more associated with feature films than with young children's television. Pakka might look very small, but in fact he's in life bigger than Upsy Daisy and Igglepiggle. And the way we've got him to look so small is by building a second set that is double the size of the set that Igglepiggle and Upsy Daisy are on, and filming simultaneously in both sets and putting the two pictures together. And that has the effect of making Pakka look very small in relation to Igglepiggle and Upsy Daisy.
And has the effect of making the show the most expensive one we've ever done at Ragdoll. Probably the most expensive preschool show ever made.
It means that each time characters at different scales appear together, we have to shoot that same scene as many times as there are different characters, because we have to shoot it, this scene, for instance, twice, once at Upsy Daisy and Igglepiggle's scale and once at Pakka's scale. And off goes Pakka along his gully. At last, Igglepiggle's got his blanket back, and Pakka can make his way into the garden. And this is his familiar route that children who've seen the programme before will know and love, the way he makes his way under the bridge and into the garden.
And now we come to one of the most familiar and much loved routines already in the night garden, where Pakka washes Igglepiggle and Upsy Daisy's faces.
Upsy Daisy?
This is an example of where we provide a playful version of the child's real experience, something that allows them to possibly reflect on and to look again at the idea of having their face washed, which is something that many children find quite unpleasant and some children find traumatic. So to give them this playful version where their favourite characters are washing each other's faces and are enjoying the experience, it's something that just gives the child that relief from that anxiety that this is something that is unpleasant.
And of course it's so much a part of children's bedtime routines, this washing before bed and reluctance to go through the routines for bedtime. And in fact, it was one of the starting points of our thinking towards this programme, the anxieties we'd heard expressed by some parents about the tensions around bedtime. So we hope it helps.
Upsy Daisy and Pakka helped Igglepiggle to find his blanket. Isn't that a pip?
And we round off this story, as we round off every story, with a little summary of what happened, followed by, isn't that a pip?
And that's a very happy way of signifying a happy ending.
And also it allows us again to look back at what happened in the story and gives the child the opportunity to tie the whole story together.
And now we come to the dance, which is another routine that children will see regularly. And this repetition and reiteration is again central to the way thinking develops. You look forward to it and you have the reassurance of having your thinking confirmed.
And the dance itself is a very simple one. It's a side-to-side dance that all the characters perform in their own way, and that indeed is very easy for the child to join in with. And of course all the characters all joined together in one big picture book experience of the dance. Just says a little bit about the nursery rhyme community of the night garden. We're seeing characters as well that haven't been in the story, which again is food for thought for children watching.
And so when we see all these characters, including the ha-hoos and the ninky-nonk and the pink-ponk, it's as though children have gathered all their toys together at the end of the day, and they're putting them away in a sense, and it makes them feel really safe.
That's right. And again, this is part of the wind down towards the end of the day in the night garden. A very familiar way of winding down that children will recognise. We gather everything together, we put it away. The bedtime routine, if you like, is well underway now. We've had the face washing, and now we have the signal that it is indeed time for bed. The Tittifers are going to sing their special song. So each of the Tittifers is singing the same song that they sang when we saw them earlier in the garden, but put together we get a very different effect. And there is a hidden lesson in here for children that's all about how things are made up of parts and how putting lots of different parts together makes something completely different.
The Tittifers have sung their song. Time to go to sleep, Makka Pakka.
And now we see Makka Pakka putting away his old pog, and the way Makka Pakka treats his old pog shows how much he cares for it, and that's an important part of the whole story of the night garden. This caring for things and looking after things and having your own house, your own possessions, and, of course, your own place to sleep. Many children find it difficult to sleep on their own in their own bed, and in the night garden, again, we make it very clear that the characters like to go to their own beds to go to sleep. They all have their own places to sleep and their own routines for going to bed. A child's bed is a very important part of their territory, and we celebrate that in the night garden. Of course, Makka Pakka takes his favourite stone to bed with him, being very fond of stones. Again, that's something that children love to point out. It's all very much part of the story, the detail of Makka Pakka's life.
Makka Pakka.
A story.
And now once again we return to the gazebo that's going to show us another version of the same story that we saw earlier. Again, an opportunity to go back over the events of the day.
Significantly, one character leads the story in the same way that you might make up a comforting story for a child about what's happened to them during their day and how important they are.
And very deliberately, we use different words to tell this story from the words that we used earlier in the programme. So the story is the same, but it's being told in a different way with different pictures. And again, that's something that helps the child to secure the experience in their mind.
And here we used the more formal storybook language. And we were extremely fortunate that Sir Derek Jacobi agreed to be our narrator, because he is such a superb performer and knows exactly how to be intimate with the children watching, but also how to dignify the narration with the right kind of formality.
He also plays the role very much the part of a grandparent, and in the night garden is very much about that relationship between a parent or a grandparent and a child. And the way that we can enjoy shared moments of silliness, because that's what In the Night Garden is really. It's a little silly event with funny little playful characters. But under the surface there's an awful lot of very important subjects that we can cover because, as I've said before, we're doing it in a playful context.
There really isn't anything more important than the sense of innocent fun that this programme has.
So Derek Jacobi's narration is very much part of that. He gives it this very kind and gentle and grandfatherly tone where he respects and understands the characters, but also understands that sometimes they might need leading through the story in very much the same way as parents and grandparents might lead children through the events of their day. And then we see all the characters in the garden going to their beds and going to sleep. And again, by giving bedtime this playful context, we hand the control back to the child, because if the child can make a playful context for something that is happening to them in real life, it gives them the opportunity to examine it and to understand it better and to take control of it for themselves.
Go to sleep, everybody.
And last of all, we have Igglepiggle, of course, who has no bed to go to. His bed is the little boat out on the ocean. And he's the one not in bed. He's the one left at the end, if you like. He brought us into the night garden, and he's now going to lead us out again. And he's going to do that by saying the final goodbye to us. Saying hello and saying goodbye is very important in the night garden. All the characters do it. It's something that children have to learn to do. And they take great pleasure in it once they've mastered it. And here Igglepiggle says a long goodbye that tells us, and tells the child, that it really is the end. And then, of course, we have the slow falling into darkness and the retreat of the night garden back to where we found it, back to the night sky, where we know that we can look up and find it whenever we want to, whenever we see an especially bright star.
And we know that some children find the end of lovely experiences a little sad, and this has been true from the time of Andy Pandy onwards. But we hope today's parents will give their children a special cuddle at the end of In the Night Garden to make the pleasure of the shared experience even greater, and it's something that they can then look forward to the next time.
And as Igglepiggle continues his journey in his little boat over the dark ocean, snug and warm and fast asleep, we end the programme where we began, and the children know that now this is complete.
Well, thank you for listening to us. We hope it's been helpful.
And we hope that you continue to enjoy In the Night Garden. Thank you very much.